So who's telling the truth, you or the Premier?
Debbie, all I can do is, state, the facts as I see them. The main reason that I've come out to have some words after 14 to 15 months of retirement and heading into private life is because the information that has been out there over the past several days is just not correct. Just go back over what's happened. There has been an allegation that an SNC Lavelin internal report, not a Nalcor risk report, but an internal SNC Lavelin report, was received by me, was given to me, received by me, and for whatever reason, willful or otherwise, I didn't react and do anything to that report. That's categorically not correct.
Today
so if I just give me a chance to finish here
sure.
now. The first point is I did not receive the report. The second point, and probably more importantly, is the fact that in that report, which I did review over the weekend, I had a copy, there is a list of risks that are in there, and I know for certain that each of those risks is actually reflected in the Nalcor risk plan that was formed early in the project and maintained throughout the project, and each of those risks had a mitigation plan against them, and the project team was diligent to the extent possible in mitigating those risks. And to me, that's the most important part, the idea that the project team and myself were not constantly and diligently driving the risk register, the risk mitigation of the project, and following up on every item constantly. That's just an allegation that cannot be left to stand.
What do you think is at play here? Because today the Premier came out after Friday bringing this subject up, and then today said that you were in the room when this report and suggestions of risks were raised by SNC Lavelin. And you are saying that you categorically were not there?
Debbie, I'm not going to get into a war of words with the Premier of the province. That's not the point. And I'm here because I want to make sure that people understand just what I explained a minute ago. Okay. There's really not much more for me to say about it than that. It's just something that I cannot let stand. The fact that a project team which has been so diligent and so professional, in following up, identifying risks, following up, mitigating them. Some very successful, and yes, some not as successful. We know that. But I'm saying there's no way that I can stand by and suggest that we were not, managing and identifying risks throughout the project. And the risks that were actually in that internal SNC Lavelin report were definitely in the Nalcor register. And actually, SNC Lavelin personnel form a significant part of the team at Nalcor, within Nalcor, that contribute to the internal risk report. So that information was clearly there, and we were clearly dealing with it as we went forward.
There are so many issues to talk about Muskrat Falls, so I want to get through a few of them. Since last Friday's announcement of the cost escalation again, and the cost is billions more than your last cost estimate when you were still CEO. So if you're not accountable for these increased costs, who is?
Let's break this into time frames. April 2016 is when I left Nalcor. Anything before that particular time, from a Muskrat Falls perspective, and I'll talk about a couple of other things in a moment, but things that happened up until that point, I've been clear, I've been very available to the public, I've been, for each of the cost increases, any issues that happened on the project, I explained them, I went through them in detail, I made myself totally transparent and public with respect to that. And obviously, from that perspective, I have responsibility up until April of 2016. Anything past April of 2016, there's a split there. I have no more dealings with the company. I have not been in touch with the senior management of the company. I have not been engaged in any decision making, obviously.
So
from there on in, I can't take accountability.
So is the $4 billion extra that we've seen since you left, is that all the responsibility of the current leadership?
So let's, once again, there's so many numbers being thrown around.
I know, and it's difficult for us to talk about
and when you say that number, I mean, it's not making sense for a whole bunch of reasons, and you have to have an apples-to-apples comparison. The way costs are managed, when we started this project, it was sanctioned at $6.2 billion, not including interest. So take the interest out of the equation, because these are the facility costs that we are controlling. When I left in April 2016, From my perspective, the costs were stabilized at $8.8 billion, not including interest. In that, in between those two numbers, I had been very clear throughout what was driving those increases. It went into three categories. One category was scope changes that we made in all good conscience to improve the actual facility for the future. Second category was there was a hot contractor market at the time. And the third category was there was issues with some contractors, particularly in startup and execution, Staldi being one of them. I explained that all the way through. I've been very transparent on it, and up to that point, to the $8.8 billion, excluding interest, that's where I say I'm accountable. The current anything past that, no, I can't say I'm accountable for because I don't know what has happened since then.
Stan Marsh